Hello and welcome to Iridium Rock and Metal Reviews. And today it's discussing the classic album time. So, British band FM, Indiscreet debut album. And I've got with me today Darren Sullivan from Sleeve Saturday. How you doing, mate?
Hi, Lee. How are you, man?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. So, we sort of spoke about whether this is a classic album. Well, it is for us. So that's the main thing. We're doing this show, so that's up to us, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So
yeah. Look, look. Full disclosure. I told you before I'm going to try and play it cool about FM, but it's hard to play it cool when you're actually in love with the band. For me, they're a band that just didn't. We'll get into it, I suppose, but they didn't properly get the breaks that I feel they should have got, based on the talent that they actually have. With Steve Overland and the rest of the group. We'll get into it, but for me, this album, as you said up front, for me, it's a classic. For you, it's a classic. It should have been bigger than it was, and I think FM deserved a little bit better than the breaks they got at this point.
You know, I was thinking about this, mate, and obviously we're going to go track by track. But when we're talking about, you're totally right, and I was going to mention about how they didn't get the breaks they were supposed to. And I think the main reason for that was this album, and it was raved about, by the way, in the press. Kerrang! Kerrang! Is shit now. It's a shit magazine, right? It's all about extreme metal now. But back then, in the 80s, It was a good magazine. You know, I used to read it. I think I had a subscription, and every month or every 2 weeks when it came out, it was great. It covered lots of these melodic bands which were about at the time. And it gave it a 5 out of 5, I think, like 5 Ks out of 5, whatever they called it at the time. But I think the reason was, I mean, if you think about it, it came out in 1986. And I think they were too mature sounding for me. I think that basically all these 80s bands, you had Motley Crue, Rat, which I like all those sort of bands, but it was all about, partying and women and booze and drugs. And if you think about it, I don't know how old FM, you probably know how old they were when this album came out, but they were so mature sounding.
I think they were in their early 20s.
Yeah. And they sounded like a band that have been playing for years and years, and the sort of style of music they did. I think it was a bit too much for these, to get big at that time. I think they was too mature sounding. I don't know what you think about that.
I hear what you're saying on the glam thing, like Motley Crue, Poison, that kind of thing. I don't necessarily, I might slightly disagree with you there. I think they were more being angled at, and you could argue it's the same thing, but for me, it's not really. But I think they were more being positioned as a British Bon Jovi as opposed to a British Motley Crue. I think that's probably what was sold to them when they signed their record deals. There's not a lot of interviews with FM, but from what you can find, I think they were sold the dream of, you're the British Bon Jovi, get on with it. I think they even toured with Bon Jovi on this album to promote this album. So in my head, that's more the angle they were promised. I do hear you though on the slightly when you look at the plane of music at 86, hair metal it's at its peak, isn't it? And I think FM were probably were a little bit above it all to a certain degree, not in a cocky way, just in a more mature way, as you say.
Yeah, I mean they did have big hair. I mean, I checked at that time. I mean, I think it was.
For the chorus, come on. Yeah.
Was it Chris Overland's hair was like, it was way up in the air. But
no! I'm gonna have to stop you there. Merv Goldsworthy's hair is the best in the band at that point.
It might have been him. But I remember as I was doing, a little bit of finding out some facts on the album, I come across that picture. I think it might have been on the back of the Indiscreet album, because I had the album. I've said many times that I've got no albums now, and I'm a bit gutted about that. But I remember their big hair. But the music was never like that. They was they're a very soulful band, aren't they? They put different elements of that, which we'll get into with the tracks by track, obviously. But this was probably the most straightforward AOR sound they did for me. Later on, they would go for their bluesy. They would put a few bluesy type tracks, and I think this is my favourite actually FM album, because I like their melodic side more than their bluesy side, and this was full melodic rock, wasn't it? Really.
Well, where was this on your radar when it came out, Lee? Did this come across your radar when it first came out in '86? Obviously,
Yes.
I was a bit younger. I only came across FM in the last few years. I've seen them 4 times now in the last 2 years, but
Oh, nice.
I didn't see them. I obviously didn't know much about them in the '80s. Did this come across your radar at the time or a little bit after?
No, straight away. I got the album straight away. I can't remember if it was on release day or anything like that, but I read the review in Kerrang, gave it a 5 out of 5. And I trusted that magazine at the time, went out and got it, and I wasn't disappointed. And it was a lot different than I probably expected. I was probably, like you said, maybe it was sold as, you're probably right, like the British Bon Jovi as such. But it was a lot more grown up than that. It really was. Yeah. It really was a lot more grown up than that. So anyway, obviously we're big fans of this album. And let's just say to everyone who doesn't know about them that they're making great music now as well. The last album,
they are,
was brilliant. So if you've not heard of them, and they're called FM UK, I think they're known as in North America.
Oh, I think that's to do with I think there's a Canadian band called FM as well. They had the name, and I think some of this was to do. I mean, we'll come off that point, but. In my view, they were stitched up by the suits. Their chances in America were ruined by contractual problems, and the suits basically effing it up on them. As I said, I think there was already a band called FM. I don't know if that played any way into it. I doubt it. But just on your point, they are releasing new music, and that's how I first saw your channel. Was of the 2 YouTube videos that I'd done reviews on it, was me and you synchronized, which I have here behind me, which just goes to prove that, even 30 years later, this band is still producing solid rock material.
Yeah. And one of the most common things we are both going to talk about, I would have thought would be Steve Overland's voice, which for me, it hasn't changed. He's one of those, I don't know. I can't hear a lot of difference in his voice now than it was then. I really can't. So, I mean, you've seen him live. Is it the same?
He's unbelievable. I go to gigs with one of my pals, my pal Darren, and every gig we go to, and we've seen FM play 4 times. Now, we've seen them play in Southampton, Leicester. Darren wasn't with me, or went to see with them in Barcelona with my girlfriend. In smaller venues, let's say 800 people, maybe kind of venues in Southampton and Leicester and Barcelona. And me and Darren just looked at each other and go, is he actually singing like? Because especially the first time there, he sounds no different than he does on the track. Now, some people might say, "Well, is that a good thing if it's live?" It is a good thing. His voice is stunning live. And then when myself and Darren then saw them, and they played the morning time on the headline on Kiss's headlining day at Grass Pop, day 4 of Grass Pop, and you would have thought, okay, 11:30 in the morning, who's going to be at the main stage at that time? Packed. Yeah. Packed it out. These are metal fans, Lee. These were hardcore metal fans of this, and they're up singing along to a melodic rock band like FM. This is the kind of appeal they have, and even on a large stage like that, thousands of people in front of him, Steve Overland still connects with the crowd the same way at a big gig like that as he did in a smaller venue in Southampton. He's absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant. Well, we're obviously we're going to run through this track by track like we normally do. We're going to do one track at a time, flick back and forth. Okay then, mate. So I'm actually going to take the first track and we're going to flick back and forth, like I just said. So opening track, That Girl. So this is one of my favourites, if not my favourite on the album. I just think, what the funny thing was about this just showed the band that they were going to be different, because the way this song starts with those synthesizers, keyboards, whatever you want to call them, it just showed you that, and they're up front, and they straight from the start. That's the first instrument you hear near enough, and you think, this is definitely going to be different, because back then, obviously, you're too young for this. I'm a lot older than you, but synthesizers were a bit of a, I don't know, bit taboo, I suppose, for some bands. You didn't want them. If you heard them, you wanted them in the background. But with FM, it was like, this is what we are going to be. We're going to put these synthesizers right up the front of the album. And they did. And I think it was a great choice because it made them stand out. And at the beginning of this song, I just love the way it's even got a gallop to this song. And this is, I'm sure you've heard the Iron Maiden cover of That Girl.
I have. I have.
No Way, by the way, I was listening to it yesterday, and obviously Maiden fans are commenting on this, saying that this is much better than the original. No way. Absolutely.
Of course they say that.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't find one comment. I heard there was a lot of comments saying That Girl was a great song by FM, but this one's better. It doesn't even compare. And I know Maiden had done a completely different take on it, and I think it was from an original writing of the song. It wasn't a copy of the song that ended up on the album. But it's so much better. It's so much better, and I love Maiden, you know I do. But
that's why I was wondering at the start, was this your favorite song for that for that reason? I thought it's his favorite song because Maiden covered it. No, okay.
no way. I mean, I did like the Maiden cover. I thought it was quite good. It was totally different, but not a patch on this version. Nowhere near.
Yeah, do you know what's interesting about this? And I don't know if it's a connection, but Merv and Pete, so the bassist and drummer, came from a band before FM called Samson, and in Samson was Bruce Dickinson.
Yes.
Yeah. So is that the connection there? That's why they covered it, because he was in a band with Merv. Merv and Pete wrote the song. I think they wrote it anyway. Merv wrote it. Merv and Pete wrote the song. So is that a connection there? Bruce was doing them a solid, maybe just covering a song from his ex-bandmates?
I was reading a little bit about it. Listen, I'm only reading on Wiki, but so you can't fucking trust anything of what I'm saying. But there was some sort of connection with Adrian Smith, and he was a friend of someone in the band, or it was something like that. But I don't know. But obviously, we're going to speak about, like I said, a lot about Steve Overland, and straight away on this song, his voice kicks in, and it's probably different as well at the time in the 80s. All these rock bands are after singing as high as they could, if you like, you know, to the heavens. It was all about how you could scream, and I was a fan of a lot of those bands as well. But Steve Overland gave a completely different side to a rock band, so soulful in his voice. And I'm sure you're going to mention this, but as I was listening to this album back, and you know, I know it. I do know it off by heart anyway. I love the album, but as I was listening to it back to do this show, loads of Thin Lizzy sounding tight, twin lead bits, especially, you know, all throughout the album. But on this one, especially on the chorus, the guitar work on the chorus, really just I thought Thin Lizzy as soon as I heard it. I'm not saying they sound just like Thin Lizzy. I'm saying there's little nuances of guitar work and that sound like them, but definitely saw it on the opening track. Love the piano in the chorus as well on this one, and they do that quite a bit. The lovely little simple sort of piano bits that make it stand out, and possibly, like I said, my favourite on the album. But there's a lot of good tracks. So
cool. No, you're absolutely right. It's great. It's a fantastic way to open up an album like this. And as you said, you know, they're not promising something they're not going to deliver. They're telling you on the first note, this is what this album is about. Very interesting though about Thin Lizzy. I actually didn't have that down in my notes at all.
Because you're a big Lizzy fan, aren't you? It's just I don't know.
Lizzy, but I didn't have that down. I didn't actually have that down in my notes. And it's only now I'm actually going to listen to it now today again. Listen back on it with that in mind, because I know you thought I might have had that in my notes. I didn't. So good show.
I mean, I think it's mainly the twin lead bits, because they were so good at it when Lizzy was so good at those little twin lead bits. And when Lizzy did it, they didn't do it all the time, but when they did it, it really stood out to me, Thin Lizzy. They were one of them bands, when they did twin leads, you was like, oh yeah, there's a twin lead bit. Some bands do it all throughout every song. They sort of did it at the right time, just like FM do it on this album. So, all right then, mate, that's me done on that song.
Okay, second track, Other Side of Midnight. Again, written by Merv and Pete. As we said, you know, these guys have a bit of pedigree coming into this band, don't they? You know, having come from, you know, this isn't their first band. It's not their first rodeo. They're young, but they've a bit of experience behind them. And this one, is I haven't listened to a lot of Samson, but as far as I can tell, it's hard rock, it's metal, which is interesting for them two coming in to write Other Side of Midnight, which is a teen angst laden AOR classic.
Yeah.
The keyboard just going through this is it's absolutely it's fantastic. And FM actually on all 4 gigs I saw played this live. Played this last. This was their last.
Oh right, okay,
song,
yeah.
At every show, this is what they closed out with, and the crowd go nuts. Now I'm not just talking about the crowd in like the hardcore FM fans. I'm talking about metal fans at Grass Pop singing to this. It's brilliant. And as you know, we've talked about it a good few times. Melodic rock AOR, I just adore it. So when it's played live, Jem Davis, who took over from Didge on Didge was the keyboardist obviously on the album, but Jem Davis now plays with them. He steps away from the keyboards live and he plays guitar. Steps out to the front and plays a bit of guitar. Now when that happens, I'm losing my mind. It could be the fact that it's the end of the show and I'm boozed up, or it could be the fact that it's just absolutely brilliant. As good live as it is on this album. I would say this is probably my favorite, or at least one of my, maybe one or two would go into the second of my favorite on the album. I love it.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I watched a live video of this when I was preparing for this the other day, and just flicking through some FM stuff, and I saw Didge Digital come on, and both of them were there. Some version, I don't know where it was recorded, but
Did Jam?
Yeah. So you're gonna have to check that out. So he was on stage, obviously, just a little. I didn't know that. Oh, yeah. Wow. So they brought him out, and they both had the keyboard guitar things. And to tell you the truth, when you go on and look at some of the live stuff from FM, and this is just handheld phones in the crowds, man, it sounds good. It really, just a phone. The sound quality of the band live they must have it spot on, because it sounds good on the phone.
I'll tell you this, when all this is currently over and we're back to normal, we're going to see a gig over there. I'm going with you. We're going to see FM.
Yes, I love it. They might come to Plymouth. I don't know. Man, they maybe.
They do everywhere. Yeah. As I said, I'm not no stranger to flying to the UK to see them. So when they come back, we're going, and you're going to get a treat.
Mate, it's a
date. This song particularly.
That sounds excellent.
Excellent.
Right. Okay then, mate. Yeah, I love that song, by the way. I love that song as well. So next is Love Lies Dying. So this is probably the first ballad, I would say, on the album. I always say ballads it could just be lyrically, it could be a ballad, but this is literally a slow song and lyrically a ballad as well. So very cool beginning. Piano at the beginning, which do start a lot of their songs. I did notice when I was playing this song that the drum sound on this album is mad. I mean, we haven't mentioned production yet, but it's a great production, especially for a debut album, and the guy who did the production, sorry, mate.
Oh, I don't have it in front of me either. Dave
King. Right, Dave King and FM did the production. So really so clear. And I remember thinking that when I got the album way back when, the production was spot on. The drums are just right up there in the mix, but never drowning anything out. And that's how I like a drum sound. And that's what a lot of bands now, I keep saying this and all forget about a good drum sound now. It's almost bands now, even AOR bands, mate, like melodic rock bands, it's almost like their snare drum is like just keeping time with the music. It's not even used as anything. It's just a little tapping. And it's so great. It's a big sound on this album, really big sound. It's great. This is actually it's sort of like acoustic, clean guitar running through this song. Absolutely love it. It's a brilliant song. The thing about this album is there's not a weak track on it. There's good to excellent. So,
it's my least favorite on the album.
I'm not saying it's my favorite, but I really like the song.
I don't know what it is. I don't know where the lines blur on this, right? But I don't know if you know of another AOR band that don't even have a Wikipedia page, but they had two great albums called Strange Ways.
Yes.
Don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Yeah.
On Strange Ways' second album, Into the Fire, they have a song called Love Lies Dying as well.
Right. Okay.
And it is AOR. I'll send it to you after this. It is AOR gold, right? It's absolutely brilliant. And I don't know if it's because the title is the same and I prefer that song, or this is my least favorite song. But Love Lies Dying by Strange Ways, I think, is a better song of the same name. And I can't really listen to this one without actually just wanting to turn it off and listen to the Strange Ways one. I love FM. I'm FM's biggest fan, but on this particular one, I prefer the Strange Ways title for this particular song.
Just going off course a little bit with Strange Ways, they were another band, weren't they, that were very different at the time, you know what I mean, did what they wanted to, basically didn't get caught up within that glam melodic rock sort of scene at all. Great band as well.
We could do a video on them as well.
I'm not sure if my knowledge on Strange Ways is probably as much as yours, but
I don't know much about them either. I'm friends with one of the guys on Facebook, but that's about it. No, I don't. There's not a lot to know about them, but them two albums were just brilliant.
Well, they're looked on as classics again, aren't they? They're looked on as AOR classics, but them two albums,
exactly.
Those first.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my thoughts on Love Lies Dying.
Right, mate. You're up for the next song, which is I love this song, but go on, you talk about this one.
All right. Okay. Track 4, I Belong to the Night. So this was written by the Overlands, Chris and Steve, and just the way it starts, the way the song just comes on and goes, I belong to the night. In you go. I think about this one with Chris Overland. He writes songs like this. He plays guitar amazing in this band, and then he leaves it all behind in '91. And I've seen some pieces with Steve where he says Chris just has no interest in coming back. There's no beef. We're brothers. I love him, but he just doesn't want to come back to this band. And from reading an article with him, it looks like he's teaching guitar now, and that's what he does.
Yeah.
It's interesting, someone that talented, involved in this album and Tough It Out, and some of his guitar solos, and we'll get onto it in later ones, are up there for me with Neil Sean. So talented, great writer, and leaves it all behind. Anyway, listen, you do what you want with your life, but
exactly.
The way it opens, the way it opens, it has this kind of it's like a cool, eerie kind of sonic. For me, this is kind of the kind of song that I just sit down, rainy winter's evening. I've got like a bottle of beer in hand, rain's hitting the window, just sit back and sink into this song. It's that kind of, it's not a summer's evening song. It's a nice, cozy winter's evening song with a beer. That kind of tune for me.
I mean, you're definitely right about it. Some of these songs are top-down summer songs. But I know it's nothing to do with the actual title of the song, I Belong to the Night. But yeah, you're totally right. It has got that night feeling about it, which is cool. And we talk about bands that transport you to certain places or, the way you feel. And these are one of them again, aren't they? For sure. So definitely right there, mate.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, I love that song, by the way. It's probably one of the most catchiest songs on the album as well. And one of those, like I said at the beginning, more melodic rock, straightforward melodic rock sort of stuff I like. So absolutely brilliant, mate. So American Girls. This is my least favourite on the album. So I don't know what it is about this. No, I know we have to disagree sometimes, mate. But I think why this was because I said at the beginning of while we set this up, said right at the beginning before we went track by track that they went for a more mature sound. Definitely, they were a more mature band than a lot of bands I was listening to at the time. But I felt this was like, and nothing wrong with it, but their stab at, it in America. Obviously, the title straight away, American Girls, and there was. I think Y&T brought out Summertime Girls as well, around about the same sort of time. And I don't know why, and might be a bit like you with Love Lies Dying. I know it's not the same title track, but I always think of these two songs together.
leading into it.
Yeah,
I get you. Yeah,
and I don't know. Y&T were huge band for me at the time, and I just preferred Summertime Girls, even though it's looked on as one of the most corniest tracks that Y&T ever did. I just loved it. But I do like American Girls. I do like it, but for me, it felt like it felt out of place on this mature sounding album. It was like their go at, as we spoke about, their sort of them being pushed towards the Bon Jovi type thing. It was like their stab at the American market. And you can understand them doing that if it was for that. But it felt a little bit out of place compared to the rest of the album for me. But by the way, I love it. I just don't love it as much as the rest.
Well, you're wrong. Look, we all have opinions, but no, look, I love this. I was talking about earlier on, Other Side of Midnight. What other song would be probably my this is the other one that I can't fathom which one is my favorite on the album. Chris's work, again, talk about Chris Overland. His work here is the best on the album, in my opinion. I talked about Neil Sean, and this is Neil Sean kind of quality on this track. It's just absolutely fantastic. The big lyrics, the big vocals on the big lyrics. You know, give me an American girl. You know, or a Destination USA. Now, I get where you're coming from, right? I know what you're saying. I get it. It's their stab at that kind of thing. But I fucking love it. I absolutely love it. It should have been a single for me. There was only one single released from this album. We'll get onto it, which was Frozen Heart. To me, this should have been a single. I don't know, Lee, if you got a chance to listen to. They re-recorded the album a couple of years ago for its 30th anniversary, Indiscreet 30, which I have on vinyl. I have to I talked about Chris's work. I have to give it to. He probably won't get much mentions in this, but Jim Kirkpatrick, who plays the guitar parts, obviously on that album. Jim's work is absolutely fantastic. He slotted into this band great. And when you listen to Indiscreet 30, that's my Irish way of saying 30, by the way, 30. When you
don't worry, I got that.
When you listen to my English colleagues always pull me up on it. When you listen to Indiscreet 30, Jim's work is up there with Chris, as good as pretty much on that album. No, I love this track. Absolutely brilliant. Vocally, sonically, I adore it.
I'll tell you what, I did like, just going back to Indiscreet 30. So, yeah, I have heard it. I do prefer the original, but that's because it played a huge part in my life when I was younger, maybe. I don't know. But I like the way they did mainly stick to the feel of the songs. Nothing was completely rearranged or anything like that. But they took some of the little nuances out of the original, which I actually loved. You know, a few little things were taken out, and I was waiting for those. When I first heard the Indiscreet 30, I was waiting for those little bits, and I was thinking, I love that little bit there. I wish they'd left that in, but if they left everything in, they might as well not released it. It would have been the same album. So, but you know, it was a great album. But there's little bits and pieces. I think, just like that little keyboard bit. I love that bit. That you know, that sort of made the song a little bit, and they left it out. I was like, do you know what I mean? But they can't make the same album, can they?
It's a bit like No, they can't. I feel with Indiscreet 30, it's a bit like going back to hang out with mates you used to hang around with 10 years ago, and you had a great weekend away down in over in Spain with them or something, and you all meet up in the local pub to have a beer and go, remember that trip we had to Spain? It's good crack meeting back up with them, but it's not the Spain trip, you know.
Yeah,
it's that. That's what this album. I get you with the nuances though. You talked about production, Lee, on this album being really good for the time. There's a little bit on this with 48 seconds to go where some engineer dropped the ball a little bit. There's a slight little, I can't even explain it, just as it's coming onto the final bit, there's a slight little niggle with the production, but other than that, it's fantastic. I actually like it. I like the little creases.
Yeah, it's good. It's got a lot of energy in that album, and it sounds actually more a lot of live recording more than the original did. It sounds quite raw, I think.
On the production.
Yeah.
Sorry, on the production error, I meant the original album. There's a slight.
Oh, right. Error. Okay. Oh shit, man. I haven't noticed that, but you do. You're very, you have an ear for that sort of stuff, don't you? So, no, man.
It's only because I love them. It's only because I love them. But
I wish you hadn't mentioned that. Now I'm going to have to get on my nerves now. So thanks for that.
once you hear it, you can't. Once you hear it, it's right after the phrase of American Girls. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. I promise you.
All right, thanks for that.
I love it anyway.
Cheers for ruining it for me now. No, that's all right. No, right. That's me done, mate. You're next. Hot Wired.
Yeah, Hot Wired. So written by Pete and Merv again. Synthesizers. So you know the way you see a lot of TV shows these days on Netflix, you know, nostalgia TV shows. You've got like, you know, Stranger Things, you know, you've got the wrestling one, Glow, where they're set in the 80s.
Yeah.
I can't for the life of me understand why Netflix producers don't look at a song like Hot Wired and say, God, put that into one. Do your research, you know, stop putting the same stuff in.
Yeah.
A song like Hot Wired, I think, is ideal for a show like that. It's got the great synthesizers in it. It's got the chorus is the best part of it for me. It's just so catchy. You know, I've listened to this album, you know, numerous times. Even walking to work from the train up to work. I mean, I'm skipping up Dublin's Henry Street to this to this particular song. You know, and you know what? It is definitely the kind of song that would raise the profile of a band like FM who are still going to put in a song like this into a modern TV show. I'd just love to see it in a show like that. And of all the songs in this album, I think it really catches that 80s vibe for me.
Definitely, mate. Definitely, mate. There is 80s. Obviously, it was made in the 80s, but you're totally right. There's that feel right through this. Where a lot of these songs could be used in some of those nostalgic TV shows for sure. I love Hot Wired as well. I think it's a great track. Moving on to Face to Face. So I love this as well. You know what I like about FM in general, especially on this album, they sort of mix where, if no one knows, obviously watching this, Steve Overland plays guitar as well. So as well as sing great, which I could never understand how anyone can do that, sing and play guitar. But, you know, I don't know how people do it, but there's an excellent mix.
That's why we do videos talking about it, Lee.
That's why we talk about it and don't actually do it. Exactly. But I love what is great about this song is what happens throughout the album. There's like a perfect mix of like a clean guitar and electric guitar running through the whole song. You know, I love that. I miss that. I think that's what a lot of bands haven't got now as well. They don't use their acoustic or clean guitars enough now. It's all about a big electric sound, and I think FM, along with a lot of bands at that time, that brought a lot of atmosphere and light and shade to their songs. Keyboards again right up in the mix during the chorus, and like I said, they weren't afraid to do this in a time where they were sort of like, keyboards were like, oh God, that band uses keyboards too much. You know, look at Maiden when they started using them, and I know they were a metal band, but they took a lot of grief off a lot of fans for sticking keyboards in their songs. But they would be used they'd be like, the keyboard is to be pushed right to the back. Very occasionally hear them in the background, but they weren't afraid to do it, mate. And it made them different than the rest of them bands at the time. And Face to Face, just another great song, mate. So there hasn't been a bad one yet. I know we've got our favourites and our least favourites, but they're all good, man.
Yeah, they're all great. You know, even Love Lies Dying, it's great for me. Just on Face to Face, I've not a lot to add. I suppose you kind of covered it all there, particularly on the keyboards and stuff. But it's interesting, you know. This is just a random track 7 on a debut album for a band like FM. It's just a track. It's track 7 on the album, not filler, but it's just in there. But it's the kind of song that, you know, other musicians of the time who were aspiring would have, you know, killed to write and release as a single. You know, that's how good even their you know their deep tracks are.
They are. You're totally right there, mate. Yeah. Right, next, Frozen Heart.
Okay. Frozen Heart. Ballad. Full-on ballad. And it's interesting, this is what they released as a single from this album. Just before I go into it a little bit, is this what you would have released as a single from Indiscreet?
I'm looking at the tracks now. Definitely American Girls. And I'm not, you know, I'm trying to look at this as my favourite tracks. I don't always, a lot of the time, singles are not my favourite tracks from bands. They're not. I just think about the market, you know, what should have been a single. American Girls, for sure. I can't understand why that wasn't. Maybe Other Side of Midnight, I would say, would have been a good single if they wanted a more rockier sort of song. But I don't know. Again, it was, maybe they should have, I would have expected it as a single, but maybe if they released 2 or 3, it would have been one of them. You know, maybe not the only one.
Yeah.
But,
Agreed. Well, who knows what happened contractually as to why they only got one single release? Who knows what happens
yeah,
there? But it's probably not. This is a fan favorite, like for hardcore FM fans. Frozen Heart is a fan favorite, which is why it's extremely frustrating that they took it out of their set list at every gig I was at. I really wanted. Myself and Darren just looked at each other and went, "Where's fucking Frozen Heart? We want to hear that." But they didn't. Yeah, they didn't play it. But it's a real fan favorite. It's a fantastic ballad. And as you know me, I like to get deep down into we spoke about this on our Def Leppard one where you and Rex rolled your eyes at me. But I like to get into the lyrics well, I like to get deep down into the lyrics. And this is like just about a song about a man, you know, like he's feeling like this is after a traumatic breakup. She's left him high and dry. And this is a guy going through absolute turmoil. Now, I'm getting to my point, but he's going through turmoil. His heart is frozen. He's never going to love again. And we as an audience, as you watch or as you're listening to the song, you know that she wasn't the right girl for him anyway, you know? So, but the way Overland delivers, you know, will I ever be the same again? The way he delivers, that's why I wanted to see it live. The way he delivers that lyric, will I ever be the same again? You can hear it in his voice. I don't know if he's writing from or he's singing from, you know, as he's recording it from a personal place. I don't know, or if he's just that professional that he's that good. But the way he delivers the lines, you can feel the heartbreak in his voice singing a song like this. I love a ballad that has true lyrics and a singer who can convey them really emotionally like this. I love it.
And man, I might be wrong here because I just mentioned Indiscreet 30 and the little nuances. Would I be wrong to say they didn't, you know, the little kick drum bit in this? It's like the double bass drum at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think it comes after the first verse. I think it might not be Indiscreet 30, not on that one. Or there's a little keyboard something. There's something missing in this song, which I was gutted about. And I know I shouldn't hang up on that. It was a great album. But this has got one of those, this is one of those songs with the little bits in that you just, you know, you remember those little tiny little bits and you think, oh, it was a great song. I love it as a ballad. You know, I'm a big ballad man as well. But I think it's this for me as well is right up there as one of the best tracks on the album. I love Frozen Heart, and it sounds
absolutely fantastic.
It sounds different as well. It's a different sort of sounding ballad. When he kicks in, like you said, Steve Overland with those first verses, how soulful is it, man? In those bits where it all dies right down and he's singing, oh fucking hell.
It's just. And that's why I'm trying to play it cool here, but you know, you're right. It's soulful in his voice. It's again, is Steve just that professional, or is he singing it from an actual personal place? I don't know. It's just so heartfelt, and you can really feel the pain in the voice. You know, put it this way: if my missus dumps me, you know, I'm drinking a 6-pack and listening to this song. It's that. It's that song, you know. It's absolutely powerful. And yeah, as you said, I can understand why they released it as a single. For me personally, it would have been American Girls. I know you're saying pretty much the same, but as they sat down and looked at the track listing, you get it. And it's just brilliant song. Can't say any higher than that.
I think I was just thinking about this as you was talking, and I think this could be one of them songs that it doesn't matter what, if you like, you know, rap music, metal. Yeah, pop music. I think if this come on, anyone could think, you know what, that's a good song. Do you know what I mean? You can't argue with that at all. It's a brilliant song. It could actually be my favourite on the album. I might have changed my mind while we're doing I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, it's Steve has said, and I can see where he's coming from, and it's not a genre we talk about.
Yeah.
But you know, I think Steve Overland and Chris would be very, very good at writing for, you know, like a boy band or, you know, something like that. I think they could write for that kind of genre. I'm not saying this song is that. I'm just saying they would be very good at writing Backstreet Boys or something, you know, that kind of territory. I think they'd be very good and lucrative if they turned their hand to that.
Oh no, I think you're totally right. There's pop elements without a doubt during their songs, you know. But you know, I'm not a pop fan by any stretch of the imagination. But perhaps that's what appeals to me, that they gave you something completely different, like I said, than other metal bands at the time. You know. Okay, so I think we're on the last track, mate. Heart of the Matter. So we're talking about "I Belong to the Night" being one of those nighttime rain it in your window songs. I think this is the summer top down song, isn't it? This one. It's a great closer to the album, and you know we talk about, don't we, closers of albums with, you know, picking the right song. I think it's another great song. There could have been other songs similar to this. Face to Face is sort of that sort of sound on this as well, to this sort of song, but AOR at its best. There's twin leads again in this, and I know I said about the Thin Lizzy type connection, but when they twin lead on this album in particular, I think they did the most in their career on this album. It just really stands clear, and that's got to do with the production as well. But it just comes right out of you, and I love a bit of twin lead guitar, you know. And I just think they mix that up with their AOR so well. There's not many AOR bands, is there, that do twin lead solos? You know, that's a bit weird, isn't it? It's a bit strange, but I think they're great at it, and it's a brilliant closer.
Yeah, sequencing is very, very important on an album. I know myself, you and Rex talked about it on Def Leppard, and we didn't like the final track on the High and Dry album. Now, maybe we just didn't like the track, but sequencing is very, very important. I mean,
definitely.
Look, I've never released an album, but I do obviously do my top 20. And the reason I don't do my top 20 videos in terms of order of preference is because you can't just have the same song. I do it in a way that's just top 20 randomly, apart from the last one where Separate Ways is my favorite. But it's about bringing people on a journey, whether it's a top 20 list or whether it's an album like this. You want to bring people on a journey of you know, up down. I'm out driving my car on the other side of midnight, or I'm, you know, as I said, sitting at home, you know, on Frozen Heart. Or then on this, the final track, close you out in a good mood, on a bit of a high. And I think that, as you said, I think the sequencing it's really well done on this particular one. Yeah,
I mean, it's like if they put Love Lies Dying as the first track on this, you know, you've got to make them right decisions, you know.
Exactly.
And That Girl is a perfect song to start the album with, you know. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't know. No, that's great, mate. That's great. We're done on the track listing. So it was quite nice to do this video, because I don't think there's many people that are going to be doing these sort of videos. They're definitely an underrated band that not enough people talk about. You know, I know that you go on, if you belong to their fan club sites on Facebook and that, obviously people are raving about them because they're there for that. But there's not enough people raving about this band, without a doubt.
No, and you know, as I said, again, my snapshot of seeing them outside of the element of where they would normally play, I've seen them at a metal festival. It's interesting the effect that they actually have on people. When myself and Darren arrived at Grasspop Lee, two metalers, leather clad, because we were arriving on the final day, threw a beer at us, landed at our feet, and I look up and went, and he just goes, "Rock on, man!" And that's the welcome you get to a festival like that. You get a beer fucked at you, you know. So, but then you're standing at the stage with FM with these guys, and they're just singing along to FM, and that's the appeal of them. They can transcend a little bit, and you can have, you know, hardcore AOR fans and hardcore metal fans really enjoying their work, and I think that's the beauty of what they're able to do, because they're true with what they do. They're true to themselves, as you said on this album. There's no messing about. This is what they're delivering. They're not going to give you anything that they're not promising. And on top of that, they're the kind of guys as well that will come out at a gig and have a beer with you. I don't know them personally. I've only had a couple of pictures with them a couple of times, but from the few conversations I've had with them at the gigs, really nice guys, humble, will stand and take a picture. They'll go on Facebook Lives and answer hardcore fans' same questions over and over. So all in all, nice guys, great band.
Without a doubt. And they're probably the sort of guys at a festival that, and I've been to a few, that I've not known the bands, and by the time at the end of that one song you've not heard, you know the chorus. They are so, you know, their choruses hit you like a lot of other real good melodic bands, and you know their songs. You know, they'll be stuck in your head after the first listen. They're a great band. Well, I'm going to take you up on that.
Absolutely.
You coming to the UK and taking me to a gig and paying for it and getting all the beers all night. I'm quite interested in that. No, you didn't mention them bits, but...
You're just going to edit my voice in saying that.
Yeah. No, I would love to see him. I would love to see him. And
really obvious, though.
No, I would like to see them. I mean,
Yeah, no,
I've heard them live. They are looking at the, just like I said, just the handheld stuff on YouTube. They sound great. You know, it'd be a great gig, I'm sure.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. Once all this is over and done with, you know, hopefully next year. I know they have got a tour list up for next year. Let's keep fingers crossed, and if them gigs go ahead, me and you are going, and you can get the first round.
I don't mind getting the first as long as you get all the rest. That's all. No, brilliant. Excellent talking with you, mate. And I'm sure we're going to do more soon.
And you, mate. Absolutely. Cheers for having me on. Appreciate it, Lee.
Cheers, mate. I'll see you next time.
Cheers, man. Take care.